Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group at Coldwell Banker. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, Hittner Group, all one word, hittnergroup.com, 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. We'd be happy to help you with any of your real estate needs. And, of course, that first conference, that first conversation is all with no cost and absolutely no obligation. 612-627-8000. All right, Real Estate Chalk Talk, the first segment of the big program. We always do the real estate rundown. Know what's happened, kids? Normalization of our inventory balances for the first time in a long time. It's straight normal.
No, I don't believe
I'm
that.
serial.
I don't believe that.
Here you go. Active listings this week of 6,500 listings, 7-county metro area, 6,500 on the market.
Okay.
1 year ago, year of our Lord 2022, was 6,700. Not that different. 2 years ago, 6,100. Not that different. 3 years ago in 2020, 6,500. Not that different.
Still low?
4 years
Yes,
ago,
bad.
9,400.
Shockingly low.
5 years ago, 9,700.
Yeah.
So we've been at this level for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do we say this is probably the level? This is probably the level that we're going to
You don't
maintain.
believe that, though, do you?
Well, not what's going to change it. You know, what's going to change the level of homes for sale? I mean, stop to think about it.
Lower interest rates are going to flood the market with new homes when
Well,
they
they'll
drop.
flood the market with new buyers.
Yep.
For
Buyers,
sure.
homes, because people are going to go, hey, let's make our move now while rates are low, because now we saw the increase. Let's capture this. There's going to be a great sense of urgency when that occurs.
What will happen is the flow. We look at the contract ratio there, which is a good indicator of that. So the contract ratio is how many properties are under contract,
Okay.
as opposed to how many properties are for sale. Just that ratio.
Okay.
Okay. So just for the people from Iowa, if we have 4 properties and 2 of them are under contract and 2 of them are for sale, that's 100%. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So in previous years, the high, I don't know what year it was, probably 2021, it was 222%. In other words, there was twice as many homes pended as there were homes available.
Wow.
We are now at 56%. So now we have almost twice as many homes for sale as we do homes under contract.
I think you'd have to see an overall change in the sentiment in the economy and sustained interest rates at a lower level before there's a great impact on inventory.
Right.
I think that if there is a dip in interest rates, that's certainly going to change buyer activity.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll gobble up some of that inventory that's currently available, and you'll
Yep.
see that hit.
Yep.
But it's not going to increase inventory if we saw like a temporary dip, because people are thinking, I mean, how many transactions do we have fall apart?
Yeah.
Not just us personally, but the market as a whole
it's
and
a
around the
record
country.
high.
How many, I mean, rhetorical question, how many transactions actually fell apart because people were going to move,
Yep.
they put their house on the market, sold their house, and then they were going to go buy the other one, and then interest rates went from, 2.25% to 5, and then to 6, then to 7, then to, a lot is
Yeah.
the answer. I mean,
To your
the
point, I
rhetorical question.
actually looked at that last month in August. It was 60,000. 60,000
Transactions that,
fell apart
wow.
because the buyers.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Because the buyers no longer qualified.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's the exact same number of real estate agents that left the business in the last 6 months.
I know it, but it was. I thought that too. It was odd, but yeah, it was an article from NAR.
In the last 6 months, we have had a significant,
But they've been saying 60,000 now for 4 months. It's more than that. more than half of the real estate agents in the country have not sold a house in a year.
Nice.
So I mean, they're basically, they have their license, but they're gone. And we've had people on our team do that. They still have their license, so technically they're a real estate agent, but they're not selling real estate. They're out, doing something else, slinging hamburgers or something. So
Is that what you would do?
that's exactly what I would do. I would
Pulled pork
I
sandwiches?
have pulled pork sandwiches. I just go in there and do my pulled pork sandwiches. Why not? So we got right now this week, new pending sales this week, 805. A year ago it was 901. So down a little bit, 10%, but that's just a reflection of the overall market is down. The number of homes sold is down about 15% year over year. As prices continue to go up, we've been talking about that ad nauseum forever. This year, just speaking of your remarks about listings, Kelvin, 35,143 homes have been brought on the market this year. Last year it was 42,000. The year before that, 46,000. The year before that, 47,000.
So we're down dramatically based on that number.
The number of homes that have been put up for sale.
Wow.
And for the first time, not for the first time, but the builder sentiment is declining. The builder sentiment has been pretty positive, for quite a while, because they seem to be able to sell anything that they can build. They're building as fast as they can. Builder sentiment is dropping now.
What do you mean by sentiment?
Just that their sentiment about the market, their feelings about the market going forward, because they're starting to have deals fall apart. Because the people they come in, they want to buy a house, and the thought for a couple of years has been, well, it's the builders that are going to save us, and they've gone from 15% of the market to 30% of the market in some areas. So the builders are going to save us, they're going to provide the inventory, but at 8%,
tough
deal.
Well, and we were talking earlier at coffee. I was out looking at some new construction and saw some builders offer a lower rate, but that will come and go as well. And when I dug into those numbers, it's not everybody gets that, right? 80% loan to value, so you got to have 20% down, and you have to have a 780 credit score. So while they advertise this lower rate with the builders, not everybody gets that. But now you love that new construction.
They don't want everyone to get it either. Stop to think about it. So if they're going to offer that kind of an incentive, they want to save it for the premium borrower in the group, because they can't provide that to everybody.
Right.
So somehow they've got to
Have some hoops.
put a screen on it, so that they've screened some people out.
It just, when they advertise, it makes it sound like everybody gets it. No one, one of the comments we want to talk about in the fourth segment will be just look at the asterisk,
Look at the asterisk. What would make, just out of curiosity, so what would make someone go from, say, an 800 credit score down to 720 credit score?
Down to 730. Could be like a missed car payment.
One missed car payment.
Yep.
And would that be that you've made up the payment? Does that matter? Doesn't. Interesting.
No, it could be at the end of a lease term, for example.
Okay, so you turn the car in, you think you're done, and
you're done, and then you're like, huh?
And then you're not really done.
So one of the things we'll talk about as well in the fourth segment, so it will be just like get your credit checked once a year. Like we were talking, like, God, I don't even know.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me.
Yeah,
8 years probably.
So do you have a like a credit checker thing?
I just don't trust that stuff. I don't know why. I'm like with your credit card company or whatever. Where
you always get your score there, right?
I don't. You have to opt in for it.
Well, Discover and some of those will hey, your scores. So
you have to opt in for any of that. Those consumer poll type credit scores, you still have to opt in.
How about the services that you pay for that then provide $1 million, up to $1 million to fix your deal if you get hacked?
Like
stuff?
the
LifeLocks or whatever.
LifeLock, yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah, I've never dabbled in any of that
stuff.
stuff.
I mean, we have LifeLock on there.
Doesn't that give you your credit score?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can just go on any time and check all three bureaus.
I bet you probably haven't for 2 or 3 years.
Oh yeah, I check.
Pay for it every month.
Pay for it every month.
Pay for it every month. It's only once a year.
It's the credit card.
They only hit your credit card once a year.
Talk about that in the fourth segment.
Yeah, we have
Stop the
Kelvin
little
and I
charges.
have an ongoing. We have a minute left in this segment. Kelvin and I have an ongoing thing because you check your credit card statements diligently. I know you do. I don't, however, but I do. But I go on because I categorize everything because I'm a bean counter, so I put it all in. And so recently I've been going through there and I look at these charges coming through and I'm like, I don't even know what these charges are for. And they're automatic charges. And it's for some ding thing that, the lovely and talented Sheila has signed up for. Or in a case or two I've signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Made a ton of sense
at the time.
Sure.
And
It's only this much money.
Yeah. So many $9.99 a month or whatever it is, but there's 10 of them, so it's like $100 a month you're getting hit for, and then try to cancel them. That's the
hardest.
That's the hard part. Can't even cancel them. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. 612-627-8000. HittnerGroup.com. HITTNER Group. All one word. HittnerGroup.com. Go to the website. It's a wonderful, wonderful real estate website experience. HittnerGroup.com. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com. HITTNER Group.com. 612-627-8000. 612-627-8000. Okay, so Jerome Powell gave a news conference this week, and he mentioned real estate 5 times in his remarks. He stated that housing, this is what kills me. He stated that when they're considering whether or not to do a rate hike or not, that housing is not even on their radar when considering rates. Doesn't that seem astounding to you?
Well, it's astounding given the fact that real estate is probably, a third of the economy?
25 to 30% of the economy.
Especially when you take all the tentacles that come off of a real estate transaction, there's so much.
I think
right?
I did one time when we were doing new construction, we just counted the number of people
who
were impacted by a build.
Yep.
And it's hundreds of people. Hundreds of families are impacted by one build of a house. When you consider, the electrician, the plumber, the auto dealers that have to provide the trucks, all of those people that get impacted, appliances that get purchased. It's hundreds of people by one home that's built. So I find that's astounding that it's not even considered. In fact, there's most likely one more Fed rate increase coming this year as they attempt to get down the inflation thing, which is crazy.
We'll talk about this in depth in the 4th segment because I have Paul's comments now up in front of me. And,
good.
And I just want to hit on some of the things. They do simplify it down to about 2 or 3 sentences, and we'll hit those in the 4th segment, so stay tuned.
In addition, it appears that the rate reductions, they're talking about when will rate reductions come?
Mm-hmm.
When will the rates start to ease? And you guys have been telling us that rates are going to come down now for about 2 years. But now they're saying that probably late 24 or 25. And so now kind of the little buzzword is can you survive until 25? That's kind of what they're saying. Just survive until 25.
Who's
I
was going to survive?
Who?
Real estate agents,
title
companies, mortgage
company.
professionals,
survive until 25.
appraisers,
inspection
companies.
Exactly.
And
half of them won't.
Yeah.
I mean, there just isn't enough flow through to make that happen. And that depends on the election outcome.
My daughter will have her license by then, so I need a good couple of years.
You need a couple of years.
We can't do this.
And you thought,
in order to survive in 25, you need to have a good run.
Yes. So what's going to make the rates come, or what's going to make rates come down? What structural thing is going to change that make rates come down? I don't understand it. Raising rates, they're raising rates to make inflation come down. Right.
Right. The economic data that's coming out. I mean, and we'll talk about it again in the 4th, but here's the sentence. Moreover, they won't lower rates until the economic data really starts to deteriorate in a compelling way.
In a compelling way. In other words, a recession.
No one defines compelling. No one defines deteriorate. Well, basically, they want the economy to go down because if the economy starts to crash, then inflation will come back down. The problem is we had numbers come out this week on, on jobless claims. They're better.
Mm-hmm.
Good. More people working.
Yeah,
bad.
More
it's so opposite what
you still
you
think that there's a hangover from COVID jobs pulling back and people
absolutely.
being at home. So those
little
people
bit.
coming back.
I think that COVID whole thing has kind of moved through the cycle right now. I mean, right now it's so structural. It's so structural in the numbers, and it's driven, in my opinion, mainly by energy, because energy costs permeate everything you do, from the shirt you've got on your back to the cauliflower that you're eating.
Right, and the delivery of those items.
And the delivery of
stuff.
those items, and you see it in the surcharges and
Yeah.
and all of that. So it's just that constant pressure, and it isn't getting better; it's getting worse. I mean, because oil this week was $100 a barrel again. I mean, it's just so expensive to do all that. The cost of vehicles is astounding. I mean, it's a normal good pickup truck costs more than my house that I bought in South Minneapolis. I mean, it's astounding to me. CNN Business reports that median sale prices of U.S. homes is at $407,000. That's the same as it is in Dakota County, by the way. For over $400,000 median sale price. It's been that way now for 3 months in a row. So it looks like that's kind of getting baked in, that over 400 median sale price thing. So if you want to buy a median priced home for $407,000 and you put 20% down, this is the part that really, when you get into housing affordability, 20% down, that means that you need $81,400 in cash to put for your down payment, and another $12,000
Closing costs.
in closing costs. Right, so that means you need about $93,000, $94,000
Nearly
in
100
cash.
G's. Yep.
And then you've got your reserve requirements. So you need over $100,000 in cash to buy that $400,000 house. And what is that house? It's a split entry home with a 3-car garage. Maybe it has a 3-car garage, but it's basically a split entry home, and probably like around 2,000 square feet, 2,100 square feet. We're not talking about a mansion here.
Yeah, 4 beds, 2 baths, 4 beds, 3 baths, maybe.
So the payment on that at 7.99% interest rate, because we're right up against 8% here with no points, no buy downs, your payment is going to be about $2,300, $2,400 a month.
It's $2,386.
All right.
Principal and interest with taxes in Dakota County and homeowners insurance, you're going to be right at about $2,900 for your payment.
So that's why, I mean,
And that's the problem.
that's
right?
the problem. So you
Look at
take
that.
my house, for example, at, when I bought it back in the day, let's just call it $600,000. And the mortgage that the guy takes out at whatever the numbers were at that time, the payments are about $3,000 a month on something like that if you put 20% down on that property.
Right.
So, and we had people moving, the numbers that we went over in the first segment, and what we had a side conversation about with what's going to drop the interest rates or what's going to change that inventory is what you had mentioned in this segment regarding the structure of the economy and having that overall improve or degrade enough for them to reduce interest rates and all that stuff. We've had a giant segment of all the activity that was happening over the last 5 years, let's call it, of elective moves that are no longer taking place.
Correct.
So the guy moving from a $450,000 at the time, $450,000, $500,000 house to an $800,000 house is just not happening.
Correct.
Because they can't afford it with the interest rate environment. So that pulls a ton of houses off the market, which means that lower level pricing, lower level in air quotes, being $400,000 and under, right? Those, you put those homes on the market, they're going to move still. And so you see kind of like two different markets happening where anything that's at or below median sales price is still moving pretty swiftly.
Still moving.
And anything that is maybe, let's say, $50,000 over or $100,000 over median sales price and above is a bit slower.
And you're seeing the people making the choice that, that a couple of years ago, for example, that same house a couple of years ago at 3.5%, the payment would have been about $1,000 a month less.
It would be, what rate you want? 3.5?
3.5. So $1,000 a month it is approximately.
Now your payment is $2,383.
Yeah, and so that number at $1,000, that's $12,000 a year.
Well, the number
cash in your pocket. I mean that's a car payment. That's a new car.
The numbers I'm running right now, because people aren't putting down 20% either. So first-time home buyers putting about 5% down. Right now you have monthly mortgage insurance. Now our payment's $34.81.
34. mortgage insurance.
and then back that out, the fact that most people carry on average $800 a month of credit card debt, car payments, all this. You have to make $9,000 a month in order to afford that first home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, a lot, if you have a married couple and
Right.
you're both working, you're both making 50, 40,000, between 40 and 50, you're right there. But man, you're right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
You're making 9,000.
You're not eating out. You're not
You're
going on
eating ramen
vacation.
noodles, yeah.
Yep.
Right? So
Now
you have to,
now throw a kid into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
oh Jesus.
And the cost that it's,
Yep.
Yep.
cost of getting diapers and formula and food
But you
and
look-
extra.
But look at that. So,
You got to pull in 150 G's a year
Yep.
as a combined income to have a decent quality
Right.
of life in a median sales price home.
Yep.
That's so legitimate.
That's legit because it's $3,400. So your payment's $3,400 for that house. It's ridiculous, right? If we can just drop these rates back to, let's just hit 5.5%. Now that payment's down to $2,800.
Affordability bubble, man.
You
It
know,
is the
Get
affordability bill.
yeah.
Think about
Pull
this.
that out. Let's mail that out. Let's go.
Here's what's going to happen, though.
Oh, wait, we don't
when
have-
rates drop down, like he's mentioned on the first segment, is the inventory is going to plummet because you're gonna have
everybody's
all
going to
this-
suck it up.
suck it all out.
Big
and what's that
sucking
going to
sound.
do to the prices? We're going to get right back into this $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 over the asking price deal.
Let's go.
And it turns right around now, and you're
Yeah.
having a payment on a higher mortgage amount.
Love
This
that.
is your all right. So last segment, we just kind of wrapped up a little bit about the high cost, average high median sale price is now over $400,000, according to Lawrence Yun. Now we're talking about what's going to fix that?
Right.
We need to increase the number of homes that are available for sale.
Okay.
In the remarks made by what's his name, Jerome Powell, he said that the rate lock was a problem. He acknowledged that there was rate lock. In other words, that people are locked in, just like he said the last segment, that there's people are locked into that low interest rate, so the elective moves are just gone. So the people who are choosing to move are moving, and they're choosing a smaller house because of affordability. Yoon says that the housing supply will need to double in order to moderate home price gains.
Double.
And
So first segment you said we have
6,000,
6,500,
yeah.
6,000.
Yep. So about 12,000.
So we need about 12 to 13,000
Yep.
homes on the market. Okay.
And that will get
let's
us
go.
into a balanced market where buyer and seller have an equal supply. But what kills me is that we have low inventory, high prices, high cost of acquisition, and sales are down 15%. That sounds to me like Jimmy Carter's stagflation in the housing sector, when you've got high inflation and high unemployment at the same time. I mean, it kind of sounds like that. And so then the question is what drives 30% of the market is housing? It is coming up to something is going to break here. Just because it can't be sustained along these lines. And that brings me up to something that happened this week that was just kind of brought to my attention because the Dakota County got the bright idea that maybe they should buy a motel and renovate it for $24 million.
Was it Dakota County? I thought
It was Dakota
a
County.
private.
No, it was Dakota County. They wanted to buy it. The Dakota County Board.
They wanted to be the first suburban area with a homeless shelter.
Exactly. And
Right
they could
in Egan,
get
down
$10
the street
million
from your house.
a $10 million grant from the state to do it, and so they're paying for a motel that had a tax assessed value of
In the
like
state of
$3 million.
Minnesota, boy, they're up for that.
Yes, absolutely, and so are the other counties because they can ship people out. Here's the killer: single people, and it was going to serve 55 people. Run the numbers on that deal. 55 people, and then in addition to the $24 million, this was the dumbest idea that anyone ever came up with. They wanted another $3 million a year for an operating budget.
Just to make sure it was running
Well, you have
well.
to have staff. You got to have counselors.
You got to feed them.
You got to feed them. You got to provide transportation and health care and all. So then we said, well, first of all, where are these people right now? Where are they? Well, they're renting them hotels, rooms in the other side of town. Okay. So your target is single people.
Because they didn't want families in there?
That's what's crazy.
I thought it was
Most
family.
of them
I thought it was you had to have families.
Nope. Single people. Most of them were,
You know what?
about a third of them were elderly. It's like, well, there are a ton of programs out there for the elderly
Mm-hmm.
to get food, to get rental assistance, and all that stuff. So, what's with that, and why are they homeless? Some of them are just men that are living in their cars and stuff like that. It's like, okay, a single guy. Why would a single guy? And I don't have a lot, unless they're a drug addict. I don't have a lot of sympathy for a single guy living in their car. I just don't, because go get a job. We have 3% unemployment in here. A single guy can go get a job, and when we had the restaurant, our guys were making $23 an hour. $23 an hour. I think you can rent an apartment, one bedroom or an efficiency apartment. There's no reason, and then you get free food. There's no reason to be homeless unless it's a choice or you're a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Like a mental illness type deal, right?
And then a third of them are going to be handicapped in some way, shape, or form. And again, there's programs. We have a friend of ours, Dave is his name, who is a expert in this area, and his business gets funding for handicapped people. And he said there are hundreds of programs available for handicapped people, state, county, federal.
Right.
There is zero reason. At $3 million a year operating budget, think about it. That's $50-some thousand for 55 people. Give them $55,000 and forget the $24 million. And they can go rent an apartment. I mean, it just was such a boondoggle. Of course, it went down in absolute.
Was there a hearing?
Flames.
What happened?
Yeah, there was a public
Yeah.
hearing, and then because they wanted to jam it through sight unseen, they hold the one public hearing at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. And didn't publicize it until 2 days before. So we had a flyer in our mailbox about it, and so then you could donate some money to the service, and then they would spend out emails to everybody in the surrounding area. So the room was packed. They had to open up an overflow room. All the media was there, and it went down in absolute flames.
Now, is that embarrassing to them, or are they going, "Hey, this is good because this is what we want. We want public dialogue." And the points you're making are good. We're going to vote it down.
It was a humiliation.
You think it was taken that way?
It
Okay.
absolutely was, because they'd spin it like, oh, this is good. Now we've had this public hearing. Well, then why did you have it at 11 o'clock? There should have been at 7 o'clock at night, and there should have been a half a dozen meetings like.
So this is somebody's private business or what? Because
this was the
business
Norwood Inn Home Suites.
It's one of like 4 hotels that are all right there.
Yes, it's just one of the hotels.
Okay.
And
so that one just can't survive.
This company is owned by a Wisconsin company. They have hotels in multiple states. They have lawsuits going on in multiple. They're poorly run, poorly managed. There's already some rooms that are being rented out right now in that hotel for homeless that are shelters, emergency shelters, and stuff like that. Ever since they started doing that a couple of years ago, there has been problems in that area behind the hotel. You've got a restaurant that just rebuilt and reopened, that adjoins the parking lot. They're finding, needles and drug paraphernalia and all that kind of stuff, behind there in the that borders the freeway. It's just not a good thing to have in a neighborhood like that. Something like that should be. First of all, there's no need for 55 people to do a $24 million deal like that. Is insanity.
Why weren't they saying that they could just go buy everybody a townhome?
$500,000 a piece, you could buy everybody. Or if you really wanted to do the job and have it for families, go into a trailer park and for mobile homes, you could serve 200 families or 300 families, and actually provide some housing for them so that they had a place to raise their kids and go to school and go get a job.
Yeah, their hope is probably like transitional though, right? Like, so you can house 55 people, but then you're in, get back on your feet and out you go.
Yeah,
is that what their hope is?
Well, sure, but what's the turnaround on that?
I have no idea. I'm just,
they didn't either, because the question was asked is, well, what's the length of stay? And there is no end to the length of stay until they can find them some permanent housing somewhere. It was pretty crazy. I mean, it just somebody was getting paid on that deal. That's the way I figured it. Someone was at that kind of, when that kind of money gets thrown around, and then it was this pressure, like we have a vote today because we've got to submit the application to the state by Thursday. So I have 2 days. We have 2 days. We had 2 days notice. 2 days. Pressure. Time pressure. Like we're gonna lose this $10 million if we don't act today. It was that kind of a thing going in, and everybody's sitting in the back room there. They have their sales pitch at the beginning that said how wonderful it's all going to be.
Right.
And all that. Of course, no place in the country could they point to another example of when this was done successfully.
Yeah, like, hey, this is working really well in San
well.
Francisco and Chicago and Seattle.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then...
You watched the 49ers last night, by the way?
No, I haven't watched any
Okay.
football.
All right.
Digress.
No,
Yeah, we
I did
digress.
Sorry.
So anyhow, so that's it. Brings into our homeless issue and our affordability issue.
Well, when you look at affordability, I'm just looking at median sales price, even like in Washington County, 456 is Washington. Dakota's real similar, 33 days on the market, It's shocking,
So for a young family now that is renting, what is their options? I mean, what can they do to make a home affordable so that they can, so a normal working class family where you got mom and dad working, making $100,000 or $80,000 a year, can buy a house where their 2 kids can have a bedroom? Pretty doggone tough.
But we're going to wrap.
Money in the bank.
Rates are good. Pretty exciting. You know why?
Right.
Free money. You understand what I'm saying?
Welcome back to the program. This is the free money segment of the program. HittnerGroup.com, HITTNER Group.com. 651-231-2500. That's where you get the free money. Give Kelvin a ring-a-ling-ling. What's going on out there in the money market, Kelvin?
Well, we were talking a lot of the show about financing and money and rates and all that. So let's just touch on a couple things here. First, median household income nationally. What do you think median household income is nationally?
Median household income nationally,
Yeah.
80,000. I don't know.
Wait, any
Yeah,
ideas?
70s.
Yeah, 74,580, right?
Okay.
And then we were talking in Washington County, Dakota County. These are 2 counties here, in Twin Cities are similar. That capture a lot of the, a lot of the market. You got the Woodbury-ish, that east side of town, south part of town. And you're looking at median household income there between 90 and 92,000, right? So that's good. But then we were talking in the earlier segments, in order to afford the median sales price, you need to make about 108,000. So we got about a $10,000 gap here that we're kind of missing a little bit. Where you kind of go, okay, here's what averages are here. Here's where income is, but the average that I need and my income are off, and that's why we're seeing some problems on people staying qualified for their home as rates go up.
Yeah, that and the housing that would be available to them is just not on the market either.
Right.
Because people are just hanging out with their, high 2s, mid 3s interest rates.
Yeah,
and not making moves.
Yeah, a lot of the countries between 2s is tough, right? There's only a few months in there where you could hit high 2s, but most of the people are 3s to 3% to 4.5% captures a lion's share. Or take 3% to 5%. That's the lion's share of mortgages sitting out there right now. So I had a conversation this week with a client who is building, and they're like, oh my gosh, hey, we just looked at this package, just want to make sure, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah, shoot. Because now who knows, right? Because their home isn't going to get done until April of next year. Where will rates be?
8% by that time.
Well, you don't know, right? So I'd use a 7.99% 30-year fixed rate for them.
Sure.
And now it doesn't work anymore. And he's like,
well, financially it doesn't.
Financially, yeah, the ratio, the amount he's spending on his house payment and then his additional debt was too high to qualify because it was over 50%. So take your total house payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and then your existing minimum monthly debt payments, which is the minimum payment on your credit card, not paying off the full balance.
These are back-end ratios we're talking about?
Yeah.
You just had to get ratios in.
Yeah, everybody listens in for this stuff. So what you're talking about on your minimum monthly debt payments is minimum credit card payment, car loan payment, recreational vehicle payment, student loan payment. Even if it's deferred, I don't have to pay that. Yeah, you do. You do. Oh, by the way, in October, you're going to see what's going to happen next month. As all these student loan payments now start to come in and everybody's scrambling right now going, oh, what do I do? Because they didn't realize that the $100,000 that they took out to go to college, quote, air marks, right?
Right.
They used that money to live on.
Mm-hmm.
And now that has to start getting paid back. So now you start adding all that up. That's on average between $800 and $900 a month for payments. And I think that's a realistic number, don't you?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So now you do that.
Yeah.
Back to the original point, you have this median home price,
and you're
median
carrying
income,
and a lot
debt.
of times people are carrying and accumulating more debt.
Right.
I know.
You know, the way it is right now. So they're paying their credit card.
Yep.
But they're accumulating more debt every month on their credit card bills than what they're actually paying down.
Yep.
That's the reality of a lot of people.
I mean, you got to learn to live simply. I mean, one of the things I was out and about with some people, and we were talking about just like, and you know, people go through different seasons of life, right? I mean, you know, and we're talking about, okay, in this season, what does it look like? And everybody, we're talking about just, you got to learn how to live simply, right? Just got to stop spending money. Take, okay, this is our home. This is ground zero, right? And, this is our base, and now let's be conservative on what we're doing. I know you listen to Dave Ramsey, and you listen to a lot of this stuff, and I do as well. And I'm just baffled by the calls that come in that just talk about how much debt people are accumulating. So just a word of encouragement to, we got to try and get people down to just a mortgage payment, right?
I try to talk to my daughter about that when she wants to buy a $12 Starbucks drink.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these things.
Well, it is. I mean, you stop. Really,
like
it is.
$12
We sit here with
for-
a carib or coffee in front of us, but
Yeah.
they don't call him Simple Senior for nothing. I just think that
Simple. Oh my God.
one thing that
You're the furthest thing from simple.
one thing I've learned over the years when you talk about living simply,
Yep.
is that you spend a good part of the first half of your life accumulating things that you spend the second half of your life trying to get rid of.
Wow, that's good, right?
And
You haven't started that though, according
What?
to your home.
the getting rid of part.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't think we have that much stuff sitting around. You, man, I don't.
Okay.
Most of the stuff that I have is old, doesn't even work anymore. That's what's
Oh, don't talk about your physical body.
But that's so true. I mean, it's and there seems to have been this I deserve it. A lot of you shoulds. I should be able to, do X, Y, and Z and go on the big vacations and all that stuff. And it's like, well, really, why should you be able to do that? I could see that you would, save up for a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Save up is the key word.
Right.
Save up for a vacation so that when you come home, you don't spend the next year paying
off for the next one.
Off the vacation. That
No. Let's quick. So just an encouragement there for people: pay down your debt. Pay down your debt. Pay down your debt. Check everything you're doing. Check your credit once a year minimum, just to make sure something isn't lingering that you're unaware of. Personal situation, checked it, right? And my score was lower than I thought it would be because end of a lease payment, turning a vehicle back in, there's one payment that says we missed in 2022. I'm like, there's no way. So now I'm in the midst of battling with that.
Right.
And I didn't know. But now your score drops. You're like, doggone it. And that happens to me, So it happens to me, it can happen to anybody. So let's talk about the Fed meeting real quick. I'm just going to read this real quick. In simpler terms, the Fed doesn't think rates are too high right now. If anything, they might need to go higher. Moreover, they won't go lower until economic data really starts to deteriorate in a compelling way.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, this morning's most relevant economic report didn't deteriorate at all. Weekly jobless claims were 201,000 versus the median forecast of 225. Actually, it's fortunate for the economy. Like, hey, this is good for the economy, but very unfortunate for real estate and interest rates, right? So the economy's doing okay in spite of the Fed, and that's what I think they're
that's
pissed,
really what
right?
it is.
I mean, they're mad. They're like,
Spite of.
doggone it.
Yeah.
In spite of everything, people are going back to work. People are, doing all this, and So, I mean, but it was, I mean, yesterday, you know, we're recording, you know, on Friday here, but yesterday we pushed over 23-year highs now on mortgage rates. I mean, you're talking mid sevens, high sevens. If you have any dings on your, I mean, just, you're mid sevens right now.
And when they raise rates, if they say they're going to do one more rate, is that
Right.
long-term rates that they're talking about raising, or is that the
It's
short-term?
It's short term. It's the overnight rate between banks and the Federal Reserve. So but it does have an impact on what's going on, you know, with us and everybody. It's been this way forever. It's harder to predict now than it ever has been. We used to be pretty good at it, right? That's why I'm always so confident. And then you realize like you don't know anything anymore because it's
So if you're getting
opposite of
into a house right now, the reality is, from what I'm hearing everybody talk about, is that it's going to be a couple of years
Yes.
that you're going to have to
Survive until 25, Keith,
until
you know.
25.
Survive until 25.
I think I really think that we're going to see it, that we'll stay in this level, right?
Yeah.
So we have to date the interest rate, but marry a home, right? So get into the home you want, but then just realize that there's some strategy and there's things we can do. So, but man, more now than ever, right? When rates are in the threes, it's like
easy.
you know, it's kind of, and I don't want to say, well, it's easy, anybody could, you know, but you know, it's not that challenging.
Well, it makes life easier for the consumer,
right?
for sure.
But right
for
now,
sure.
you need to have a conversation with me to know how to best structure this deal to get through the next probably 6 months to a year that we're going to be in this. So maybe it's a 1-0 buy down, maybe it's a 2-0 buy down, maybe it's a permanent buy down, maybe we go interest only. You know, if you have enough money and you put 20% down, we go interest only if you want.
Okay.
Okay, well, how would that look?
They'll give
You know,
your monthly cash flow time to catch up
Yep.
with the economy.
maybe, yeah.
Correct.
So there's just a lot of things we need to have a conversation about, and I love that part of this, right? That's why it was sometimes kind of hard with rates so low.
Right.
I mean, there's no conversations like,
Right.
you know, what can you get me? Well, 2.75. Like, great. I'm like, well, we're not being thoughtful or strategic at all. But quite honestly, grab that rate and don't, you know.
Right. And
but
don't ever
now-
let go of it.
I know, but it's tough because we're, you know, we're
Don't
telling
ever
people.
let go of it.
But let's have a conversation. It all starts with a conversation at 651-231-2500. Again, 651-231-2500.
We're living in Jimmy Carter's stagflation in the housing sector. Only an election will fix that. 612-627-8000 is the number to call. HittnerGroup.com, HITTNER Group. All one word, HittnerGroup.com. And we'll be